So, the Galaxy S26 Ultra is the best Ultra phone you can buy right now. But the real question is this. In a straight-up Galaxy S26 Ultra versus iPhone 17 Pro Max comparison, which one is actually the better phone in 2026, and which one should you spend your money on? Because this year, Apple finally showed up with some meaningful upgrades on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So is it enough to catch Samsung, or did Samsung just widen the gap? Let me give you the blunt truth. What's up, guys? Sal here. If you're planning to pre-order the Galaxy S26 Ultra, I've got some of the best pre-order offers linked for you. Extra bonuses, trade-in credits, sometimes even a free storage upgrade depending on your region. All of that is available when you order through my link. You'll find it right down in the description. Alright, let's start with what you see and feel first. Design and build. Side by side, the Galaxy S26 Ultra wins this one pretty comfortably. The first thing you notice when you pick them up is how much thinner and lighter the S26 Ultra feels compared to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. That's not just numbers on a spec sheet. In the hand, it genuinely feels more balanced and less fatiguing to hold for long periods, especially if you're one-handing it or doom-scrolling in bed. Samsung has really refined the S-series Ultra language now. The S26 Ultra looks cleaner, more symmetrical, and more intentional. The camera lenses flow naturally with the back glass, the frame curves are subtle but ergonomic, and the whole thing just feels like it was designed as a single piece, not a collection of separate parts glued together. Now compare that to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Polarizing is the right word. Some people will like it, a lot of people won't. The camera bump looks a bit odd and almost tacked on, the logo placement is slightly off-center visually because of the new layout, and that dual-tone finish on the back just doesn't land. For everyone. From some angles, it honestly looks like a prototype that accidentally shipped. Both Apple and Samsung have moved from premium titanium back to aluminum this year. So yes, technically, both have downgraded materials. And sure, design is always going to be subjective. But if we're being real about it, if you put the Galaxy S26 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max side by side on a table and ask most people which one looks like the more premium, thought-through flagship, the S26 Ultra simply looks better out of the two. Now let's move to the displays, because this is where both phones go head-to-head and the battle gets interesting. On paper, Apple has the brighter panel. The iPhone 17 Pro Max pushes up to 3,000 nits of peak brightness compared to the Galaxy S26 Ultra's 2,600 nits. So for pure raw numbers, yes, technically, Apple wins that part. Outdoor visibility in direct harsh sunlight is excellent on both, and Apple does pull ahead a little when you're in those extreme conditions. But Samsung made two massive upgrades to the S26 Ultra display that matter more in real-world use than just chasing a brighter spec number. First, Samsung switched to a newer M14 OLED panel with a full 10-bit display pipeline. And yeah, Samsung's own website still lists it as 8-bit in some places, which confused a lot of people. That's just wrong. Samsung has confirmed it's actually 10-bit. That translates to smoother gradients, richer colors, and fewer banding artifacts when you're watching HDR content, editing photos, or playing high-end games. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is using similar cutting-edge OLED tech, so overall display quality is genuinely excellent on both phones. You're getting top-tier panels either way. But the Galaxy S26 Ultra pulls ahead in two key areas that you actually feel every single day. The first is what Samsung calls the privacy display. And this, in my opinion, is one of the few genuinely innovative smartphone features we've seen in a while. Phone upgrades have become so incremental that we usually argue over tiny spec bumps. But this actually changes how you use the display in public. On the S26 Ultra, you can individually hide sensitive elements like notifications, password fields, or private messages on specific parts of the screen while keeping the rest of the display visible and usable. So imagine you're handing your phone to a friend to show them a photo or a YouTube clip. You can keep your notification shade or banking app details hidden, or you're logging into a site in a coffee shop, and anyone behind you can see your screen. The S26 Ultra lets you hide just the password field while you still see everything else. That level of granular privacy control built directly into the display experience is actually useful, day in and day out. It's not a gimmick, it's something Apple simply doesn't have on the iPhone 17 Pro Max right now. The second display advantage is anti-reflectivity and durability. Both phones use anti-reflective coatings this year, but Samsung's is noticeably better in real life. The S26 Ultra cuts down glare more effectively, so indoors under bright lights or outdoors in mixed lighting, you see fewer reflections and more of your content. And somehow Samsung's coating is also more scratch-resistant than what Apple is using. You're less likely to see those fine hairline scratches that tend to appear on iPhone screens after a few months. So when you look beyond the marketing headline of 3,000 nits versus 2,600 nits, and you consider the total package, 10-bit panel, privacy display, better anti-reflection, and scratch resistance, the display round for me goes to the Galaxy S26 Ultra. Now let's talk battery life, because this is where the momentum shifts a bit in Apple's favor. For the first time, the newest iPhone actually packs a slightly bigger battery than Samsung's latest Ultra. The difference is around 88mm mAh. On paper, that sounds tiny, the kind of thing you'd normally just ignore. But in phones this optimized, every little bit of extra capacity matters, and Apple has always played the efficiency game really well. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is likely going to last longer in day-to-day use, and that comes down mostly to one thing: efficiency. iOS still tends to be less resource-hungry than Android. Apple controls the whole stack: silicon, software, optimization, and they squeeze every drop out of that combination. We've already seen this play out before. The iPhone 17 Pro Max outperformed the Galaxy S25 Ultra in most battery endurance tests, even when the batteries were similar sizes. And considering Samsung is advertising basically the same all-day battery life on the S26 Ultra as last year's model, while Apple quietly slipped in a slightly larger cell and matured their efficiency further, I'd expect the iPhone to edge it out in real-world longevity. If you're a heavy user, 5G, all-day, camera, gaming, social media, navigation, both phones will get you through a full intensive day. But if you're the type of person who wants a little more buffer at the end of the night, or you're often at 10% by bedtime and that stresses you out, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is more likely to give you that extra margin. So battery life round, in my book, goes to the iPhone. Charging, on the other hand, is a lot more balanced. The Galaxy S26 Ultra charges faster over the wire. Plug it in with a proper charger, and you'll see it top up significantly quicker than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. If you're constantly doing quick 15 or 20-minute top-ups during the day, that speed advantage matters. Wireless charging speeds are basically similar between the two. Where things diverge is in how they handle the ecosystem and extra charging tricks. The iPhone 17 Pro Max includes built-in magnets with MagSafe. That means your MagSafe chargers, stands, power banks, and car mounts snap into the perfect position every time. It's simple and convenient, especially if you've already invested in Apple's ecosystem. The Galaxy S26 Ultra, on the other hand, supports the newer QI 2.2 wireless standard, so you still get modern wireless charging and accessory compatibility. But it doesn't have the magnets integrated into the phone itself in the same way. Some third-party cases add magnet rings, but it's not as baked in as MagSafe is on the iPhone. Where Samsung pulls ahead is with reverse wireless charging. You can drop your Galaxy Buds, smartwatch, or even someone else's phone on the back of the S26 Ultra and share power. It's not something you'll use every day, but when you're at 60% and your earbuds are dead before a flight, that feature suddenly becomes a lifesaver. So yes, iPhone wins in charging ecosystem polish. With MagSafe, Samsung wins in wired speed and utility with reverse wireless charging. Overall, I'd call the charging experience between the Galaxy S26 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max a draw. Now let's get into performance, because this is where the usual iPhone argument finally starts to fall apart. For years, Apple loved to say that their 2-year-old iPhones could still outperform the latest Android flagships. And to be fair, for a long time, that was actually true. Apple's chips were monsters, and a lot of Android phones just couldn't keep up in raw CPU and GPU power.